Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It's a very early morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. It is literally the earliest recorded video that I think I've ever made in my life, starting this one at 6:30 a.m. Why, you ask? Maybe because I'm a little bit crazy. No, well, actually, maybe a little bit of that. But more importantly, it's too fucking hot to sleep right now. So why not talk about some goddamn magic internet money business? So we'll get into that right now. And I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term analysis, as we did see the short-term analysis play out actually on that video, which was sometimes that does happen. It's quite nice. And Bitcoin now playing out a range between that 11,650 pivot to the $12,000 pivot that we spoke about as of yesterday. So sideways is more or less steady. However, there are some very important things to be aware of as we go into the rest of the trading week, because while Bitcoin has not necessarily completed a full-on reversal just yet, it very easily could, and there are many things to be aware of with regards to that. Anyways, on top of that, let's go check out the Krown Chain application, which can be found at app.krownchain.net, and it is 100% free. What we see over here is very interesting with the open interest actually coming back down below 2.5 billion, which would suggest that as price action comes down with it, that is mostly longs taking profits rather than shorts being added onto big positions. So with regards to that, that would still suggest that we are seeing that nice ebb and flow, but that does not supersede the daily trend. So I would put overall importance on that, but I do think that that offers up a little bit of an interesting underlying market dynamic to interpret the market with, as again, open interest coming down while price action is going up, or sorry, open interest going down while price action is also going down. Jesus Christ, man, I can't see what the fuck's going on over here. Sorry, my computer's doing all sorts of weird things in the early morning hours. But that typically would suggest that it is longs taking profit rather than shorts being added. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance, we do see it is more or less steady from yesterday, coming down just a slight amount. We seem to have found a little bit of a range. We'll be looking at that chart again today. We are looking, going into last week, we were looking for a big bounce there. We have since bounced up about 1.5% on the dominance, which is rather big, but I'm not so convinced that this is actually the area just yet, and that would be the first thing suggesting that perhaps we're not actually seeing rotations right now, or perhaps rotations have ended. And when we look at traditional markets, there's going to be a big tie-in right there as well. Looking at the fear and greed index, we've actually come down another 5 points, which is bringing us back down into that last little range that we spoke about. That Bitcoin's been creating over the last 3-4 weeks, going back to late July. And we do see that the global funding rate is also coming back down to parity as well, which is typically around 0.01%. That is more or less par for the course after spiking up above 0.1%, which was one of the other big indicators letting us know that that was very likely to be a local top at 12,500. So with that said, let's go into the actual price action analysis charts right here. Bitcoin once again under pressure. It's right around that 11,700-ish region. So I'm going to go down here. Actually, I'm going to go to a completely new chart, and we'll do this one together. So let me just delete all drawings on this one. There we go. I'm going to be using a fresh GDAX chart, not because I necessarily love GDAX. People always inevitably ask when I use like a different chart other than BitMEX. Hey man, should I be charting on this chart? No, they're more or less the same. We're just looking for history here. That's all. I want to keep some of my charts cleaner. Some of my charts are more for videos, and this one we'll be using for that purpose right now. So looking at this right here, we want to obviously mark off the key critical areas defining the daily trend. As of right now, that would be essentially right around the 21 exponential moving average and also our last little local low that would be of interest. As if Bitcoin does break below there, then we very likely do have some at least medium-term issues, not just short-term, but also medium-term issues back down to the $11,000 base, somewhere in this region right here before the prior consolidation. So while that would not necessarily complete a full-on, that would not necessarily complete a full-on long-term reversal, short-term and medium-term, that would be about a $500 to $600 trade, depending upon where that actually does kind of meet up, and it will be rising over time, of course, as well. So if that were to happen, yes, I would actually be interested in a trade down there. However, it's not until Bitcoin still breaks below, let's call it about a little bit over 11,000 right here, where I'd still be targeting that move down to, I think it was the 9,800-ish region, somewhere right around here. Looks about right. Yeah, 99 to 9,800. This liquid zone right here is what I'm talking about. And yes, of course, it's always in the cards, but seeing as Bitcoin is above, both these levels as it is right now, is it like the first thing in my mind? No, absolutely not. But of course, have to always plan in advance, because in a game where anything is statistically possible, there has to be some sort of, stopping point where biases change around, and that would be it for me. So again, short-term, medium-term right here, and then long-term right around here, which will actually throw another blue box into this region right here as well. Again, in that about $100 range between 11,000 11,000 and in 10.9 region, we'll call it. Anyways, so let's go down now to the lower term timeframes and see what we got going on right now, because the higher term timeframes were more or less the same from yesterday. And as it is, Bitcoin does seem to still be finding a few buys within this region right here, which is also riding this trend line coming in from the consolidation beginning late July as well. So as long as it is riding this area right here, and you can see that pretty much coincides with this horizontal that denotes our last higher low on the daily as well, then, well, still higher highs, or still higher lows at the very least. And seeing as this trend is to the upside, yes, we do have higher highs as well, but there's a nice little trading range here more importantly. And the trading range is pretty much the same thing that we spoke about yesterday, and anything within this range is more or less constructive in the way that I think about it. It doesn't mean that sideways in here is all that fun and like a great time. No, but more importantly, sideways within here is carrying out this same sort of ascending triangle formation with a little bit of a swing failure pattern up here. But overall, as long as we have higher lows, I cannot really be bearish on the daily. Doesn't mean that it can't change, but I would still be looking for that to actually completely confirm itself. We can also make a liquid zone for the downside right here as well, of which I'll use this area right here. So it's about a $50 range between 11,550 and 11,400, or sorry, 11,550 and 11,500. That is if you're going to be more aggressive, or sorry, that's going to be if you're more conservative. If you're going to be more aggressive, could use this one as well. But either way, the key point of this is still 11,550-ish region. So I'll just put it in there for now, and we'll do it like that. And any sort of a break below this area, again, very likely does transpire and move all the way back down here. However, technically speaking, you want to be looking at a daily for something like that. I do think that a 4-hour would actually get this one as well. So a 4-hour delta closure below the more conservative of those ranges, we'll call it 11.5. Yes, very likely another $500 move, maybe even $600 move down to 10.9 region, as that is the lower end of this next liquid zone right here. But for right now, Bitcoin bouncing off it in the early morning hours, so to speak. So I'll give it a little bit of leeway here, of course. Now, looking at momentum oscillators, I'm curious if there's anything in the cards right now. Do we see any sort of hidden bullish divergence that you'd expect to see if this is going to create a potential higher low? And yes, it is potentially in there right now. We are making lower lows on RSI while making higher highs on price action between this low and this low right here. So it is within the cards, yes, but that also means that if Bitcoin does break below this region, then that's no longer the case, and down is the direction. Looking at 4-hour Stokes, we are actually about to cross the upside, and we will cross the upside if Bitcoin does close this next 4-hour dildo, which is closing in 12 minutes and 9 seconds. So we'll actually see this one together very, 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 very likely. And that's why I make the fastest video of all time that I've ever made, above 11,679. So that's actually under price action right now, which is the first time that we've actually started seeing the momentum also start to once again get behind price action, meaning like underneath. While it does try to set in another base. So we do have some interesting things to be looking at right here, but we also want to check out the very low term timeframes today. And looking at the 3-hour, it actually does look like it wants to make another swipe to the downside. We do not have that same sort of hidden bullish divergence present on the 3-hour RSI either, which is also very concerning, because you'd expect to see it on the 3-hour if it is present on the 4-hour. And I would say that the 4-hour isn't necessarily like the most obvious one right now either. So this one's actually looking like we make another swipe back down towards 11.6, so 11.650-ish region. Doesn't necessarily imply a break, but momentum on the 3-hour dildo time frame, more importantly, which closes in the next 2 hours and 11 minutes, is going to turn back to the downside, or remain to the downside. Actually, I think it's freshly crossing right now. If Bitcoin closes that next one below 11,750, so critical areas here. In the early morning hours, and I'm just curious if the very low timeframes agree with this. By hourly showing that momentum shifts back up to the upside with the next closure again in 10 minutes and 50 seconds above 11,678, which is pretty much the exact same thing as the 4-hour. So it's very good to see confluence there. Also kind of like a little bit of a fake out there as well, snaking around. And what do we have on the 2-hour RSI? No hidden bullish divergence present here as well. Oh, Sleepy Beauty is awake. Looks like Elsa's up. She's tired as fuck too, because she usually sleeps in until to like 8 or 9 or sometimes even fucking 10. But right now, yes, it is under price action, closed in about 10 minutes, so we will be able to see that one together. I do not think that doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't swipe this area again. It just would suggest that it probably tries to bounce off of it again, which is essentially what I'm looking at right now. In hourly showing about the same area to 11,697, closing at the exact same times as the other time frames. We even got a little bit of a buy signal on the hourly jewel down around here, it looks like. Yeah, down around, or actually right around here at about 11.7 before that rally to 11.850. Not the best signal right there, but it is an hourly at the end of the day. In fact, more importantly, we are playing out hidden bearish divergence between this point and this point, which is a little bit more concerning, of course. So yes, I do think that we swipe the lows once again at around 11,650 to 11,700 even. But does Bitcoin actually break below there? Well, we'll have to watch that one in real time. But as long as the next one closes above 11,700, essentially momentum will shift back onto the upside with probably a few more tests to the downside as it grinds out this area. So that is my probably main message today, is that more than anything, I'm probably just looking for some sideways action here between let's call it like 11.7 and 12,000. And as long as Bitcoin's below 12,000, there's no a crazy amazing Bitcoin party to be had. As long as Bitcoin's above 11,700, there's not really any sort of a downtrend to be too excited about either. If I'm going to be bearish, but below there, yes, happy to be bearish. Above there, happy to be bullish. And if Bitcoin does take out 12,000 to the upside, as we've already talked about the downside potential targets, I would be looking for a move. Again, if Bitcoin closes a 4-hour dildo anywhere above 12,050 or even above 12,000, I think probably gets it as well. Then I would be looking for an extension all the way to 12.3 and play out a range between 12.3 and the prior high of 12.5. That's the next very interesting area from the macro perspective, because any sort of a break above there, above 12.5, and I'd be looking for a move towards 13,000 essentially, as we're starting to get in like the woods here as far as higher term timeframes go, but that is the last sort of closing high that we have within this region right here. Few wicks accumulated in the $13,000 region, but not a whole hell of a lot. So it would suggest that if Bitcoin were to get up there, it would probably only be a short-term stop before working its way towards 13.5, maybe even 14,000, as those are still relevant for the weekly and monthly levels. As we take everything, oh motherfuckers, take it off right there. Yeah, as we take everything off right here, we do see that we saw a lot of selling pressure into that region June 2019 and July 2019 of last year. So that's still very much relevant. But overall, in the higher term timeframes, again, for the long-term perspective here, which is rather divorced from the short-term perspective, Bitcoin can very easily come back down to 11,000, put in a low right there, and still put at the higher term timeframe analysis. That's unchanged. Remember, the higher term timeframe range is below 11,000, or even a 10.9 if you want to be more conservative. Although 11,000 very likely gets it. But yes, looking at the weekly right here, obviously Bitcoin did take out the last few highs that we've been getting rejected at ever since January of 2018, going all the way back on over here. That is relevant in and of itself. We'll pull out this chart right here, and yeah, there we go. And so get the fuck out of my way. And that, and that is a change of behavior on the macro scale. Not only that, but we have several other things to cover up right now as well, because we are coming into the monthly close, which is also going to be a bi-monthly close and maybe a quarterly as well, although I'm not sure. We can check that out. But let's first start off with the monthly. The monthly is continuation as it is right now, with a low right here, high right here, higher low right here, and with continuation above that last prior high in June 2019. Obviously, the only thing after that is continuation. It's it's going to be a new high. Now, do we put in a new high exactly as it is right here? Yeah, I mean, is that possible? Yes, but as you can see, it'd very likely take time. So I don't really think that if Bitcoin were to reverse here, for example, if Bitcoin were to actually put in a high here somewhere around 12,000 or 11,500 and then head back down, it'd very likely take it'd very likely take at least until September for something like that to happen, as right now this is continuation from a trend perspective, and momentum also does agree with that, as well as we do see monthly Stokes nice and erect to the upside. They will remain erect to the upside as long as Bitcoin price action is above 9,100. So there's that as well. We also do have a little bit of a haughtier long signal on the monthly jewel, which, I mean, that can take half a year to a year to play out realistically. And then we also have a very constructive RSI building out a base and rejecting the bearish control zone on the monthly as well. And to get it back into the bullish control zone, we would have to close above 13,000, an area of interest to the upside, of course, as well, as we denoted by all of these wicks accumulated in that region. But let me also show you the bi-monthly bi-monthly too, because the higher term time frame that you go, well, the better perspective that you get on the long term, up until a certain point, because realistically with a bi-monthly like this, where like you don't really even have all that much history, you can only get so much from it. I mean, we don't even have we barely have a 55 exponential printed on this, but as it is right now, I mean, I don't think that you need to be a fucking I don't think that you need to have too much experience to identify this as yet again another uptrend, another continuation of trend, more importantly, especially if this next bi-monthly closes anywhere above, what is this May closure right here, about 10,000 or 11,000? Yeah, about 11,000. So if that were to happen, let's look at momentum oscillators. Momentum oscillators, hey, mom oscillators, get over here. Yeah, there we go. Headed up again. Very, very lackluster information here. But bi-monthly RS actually looks very, very interesting, because we would be getting into the bullish control zone for the first time since September 2016. Where was that? This was September 2016. Somewhere over here. Oops, somewhere, yeah, right here was September 2016. That was before that. So there's that. But yeah, overall, still, like another week to go. Let me just check my calendar right here. Can you see it on the screen? No, you can't. It looks like it's a little bit like a week and a half till the end of the month. There's 31 days apparently in the month of August. So nice. Thank you, computer, for that beautiful information. All right, let me make sure that I'm recording. I am recording, and my microphone's working, so that's really good as well. And yes, looking at the monthly the bi-monthly as well, area of interest still going to be mid 13,000 to 14,000. So that is again only relevant for the very long term. Krown is not saying. Krown is talking in third person, so he sounds like a fucking moron. No, Krown is not saying that that Bitcoin's destined to go to 14,000. Just it's an area of interest if it were to get there. Again, very much divorced from the very short-term time frames. Let's go check out CMEs as well, if there's any sort of hints within this chart right here. And CMEs does look like it wants to swipe back down towards 11,400-ish region. It does look downward angle here for sure. Although I shouldn't use that aggressive of terminology. Again, assuming that it does not take out this low, though, same thing as spot price action and make a lower low on the daily, it actually does have hidden bullish divergence in the making here as well on the daily. Very far away, would need to actually confirm a local low here first, which it is very far away from doing, but looks like another test of the downside. Assuming that next test does not create a new low on the daily time frame, I'd probably be looking for that to be the next big potential opportunity for the higher term time frames on Bitcoin. What else we want to look at? Let's actually look at the same thing on regular spot price action. I am a little bit concerned about this. Daily Jewel is a sell posture. I'm curious, do we see the same thing on 12-hour? Yeah, we did see a 12-hour sell signal. So we spoke about this at the end of the weekend. I usually save that for the TA nerd session. We're almost in the TA nerd session right now because it's almost 20 minutes in. That's when everyone clicks off. But, well, probably most of them are going to fuck them. All right, my TA nerds. Yes, so you know how we spoke about this over the weekend. This was a signal that was lining up that essentially insinuated that if Bitcoin did not get continuation, I think it was Friday, Saturday, then very likely it would line up with a sell signal by Monday. And well, that's essentially what we got. That's essentially what the jewel sometimes tells. 12-hour, do we have anything to be aware of on RSI? Could potential to create hidden bullish divergence, but still, this is not a local low as it is. The only way that we can create a local low is if we have a nice stop and reverse point and we don't take out the last prior low, which would in this case be about 11.5 as well. Obviously, in a 12 hours, going to have a lower area for that, but does look, again, like Bitcoin wants to test down here. I mean, does not look like the 55 is all that far away either at 11,300. Things do look heavy. So while I am kind of painting a little bit more hopium for the Bulas there, understand that is still very well and far away. It wouldn't even happen on this next 12-hour dildo. It'd probably have to take another day or two going sideways here before it actually gets a chance. And I'm curious, do we have any signal on a 10-hour? No, we don't. And what about the CMEs? Did they have the same signal? Because if that happens, that's also very concerning as well. Looking at the 12-hour, yes, it did. It did have the same signal. We saw it right here on 18th of August. So that was yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday, getting this move right here, it looks like, right off the open from 12.3 to where we are right now. So about a $600 move thus far, and usually you do get more than that as this one does turn down here. What about on the daily as well? Do we have the the same sort of setup? No, no, it's not setting up that way on the daily. So that's a little bit of a good thing there if you do want to be Bula-ish. But understand that this channel is always focused on traders. So realistically, while trading in general is a lot easier when things just go to the upside. I mean, there's that great saying, don't confuse brains with the bull market. It's still as a trader, can't really give a fuck if it goes up or down. Yes, it is typically easier to trade in up market, absolutely. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be a trader, if this is going to be your living, can't fall in love with your inanimate object asset. In this case, an ephemeral orange coin that doesn't even exist in reality, only on the computer networks. You can't hold my bitcoins, but we can think about it, which is just as good. Now, obviously, this is speaking as someone who is a believer in Bitcoin, but just trying to get away from that gang-like mentality where people think that because you like Bitcoin, you always need to be bullish on Bitcoin. No, that is very silly. That is very immature because, well, that just is not going to always be the truth. What are you going to do all the way from 2018 to 2020? It's pretty much a straight down market as far as the macro goes. Yes, you did have your ups and downs, or you did have your ups here and there, but overall, things were mostly down and still down from the overall high. So let's go check out world markets now. NASDAQ futures came down quite heavily around the close yesterday night as well. Looks like. And what are we doing here? Are we going to try to set in another higher low? I do think that it does. I mean, I would say that this trend, which has been your friend going all the way back to April of this year, well, my fucking thoughts on that. Probably tries to put in a low somewhere around either here at about 11,190 or here around the 21 exponential moving average just above 11,000 as well. All of those would be higher lows. And looking at daily RSI, this still looks fine to me. I'm sure some people are going to call bearish divergence on this. Technically, you are right, which is why I do think that it comes down a little bit lower here. But I do think that it'll also in kind probably try to put in a low there as well. What is very concerning is potential sell signal here on daily Jewel, not lining up just yet, but it is switching around, and with another down closure probably does line up. Actually, looking at the weekly as well, this would be, and we're 1 day away from Friday closure tomorrow. This would be a little bit of an anemic close, not a little bit. This would be a problematic close. I'd be looking for this as a good chance to produce even more downside, not just down to 11,000, but 10,650 if it were to close like here or lower by tomorrow. Tomorrow being Friday. So that would also very likely cause 12-hour Stokes to come back down. Yes, they're already coming back down right now. Weekly RSI actually still looks very good. So, maybe it's just a short-term thing, but overall, I'd probably be looking for a pullback, especially if it gets continuation below this week's low, which is currently 11,142 and a quarter. Let's go look at E-mini futures for SPY. I believe that we made new all-time highs yesterday. Did we? No. God damn it. So close. $2 shy of it. 33.95 and 3/4 high versus 33.97 and 50 cents. So what does that mean? Well, double top. So probably coming back down and going to probably try to bounce off this area at about 33.30-ish region. I believe that is around what we said yesterday. I believe that we said yesterday very likely coming back down to 33.60. Got a small bounce off of there. Now coming back down, and I'd be looking for this area right here. Let's actually just mark it off really quick. Something like this. Boom and boom. And I'd be looking for today to probably swipe into this region and also very likely bounce off this region too. But Friday's closure, tomorrow's closure is absolutely critical if this is going to look like an actual reversal or not. Now, there's one other way to really be looking at this in advance as as potentially a bigger reversal, and that is if we take out last week's low here at 33.19.5. If that happens, I'd be looking for a move all the way down here to 3,200-ish region on E-mini futures for SPY. So keep an eye on that area as well, because that would very likely be an obvious trade, as it does kind of get rejected from its prior high with all momentum also just turning down at the same time. Yeah, I'd probably force weekly Stokes down plus weekly RSI. Again, weekly RSI is good, but overall could very easily afford some downside here. Test around the exponential on that as well. That would not be long-term problematic, but it would be medium-term, very likely to bring back down price action to the 323 region to 3,200-ish region, somewhere around the weekly 10, So if those were to happen in line with Bitcoin also doing something similar, then yes, that's actually the point where I do think that Bitcoin could play out a deeper retracement, not just to 11,000, but if that area were to break, so to speak, then, well, Well, we'll talk about that if and when we get there. But for right now, still a lot of trading left to go. 2 full days for traditional markets, and if I had to call it right now, I do think that this one will try to bounce up here first and foremost, probably back up to 33.75 short term. So very very short term, probably bounce. Medium term, I'll be looking for a little bit of a stab lower towards that liquid zone that we just spoke about, and then we'll come back to it tomorrow, I suppose. Let's go look at some of the market leaders. Let's go look at Apple. Is Apple still going to the goddamn moon? Nope. Taking a little bit of rejection yesterday as well. Also has potential doji dildo in the making on the weekly here too. At new all-time high. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. This one is just craziness. I don't have a strong opinion on this one. Yeah, I don't think I have a strong opinion on this one. If I did have to call it, I do think another move down, actually. I do think another move back down to 450-ish region. 4-hour jewel kind of getting into a sell posture as well, but not quite just yet. A little bit of bearish divergence potentially. Yeah, a little bit of bearish divergence present on the 4-hour as well. So yeah, I do think it comes back down here, but that would still be a bounce area. That's still just another higher low as far as I'm concerned. What about Tesla? What's Tesla doing? Tesla looks actually good for another swipe to the upside. Small pullback there at the end of the day, but I'm curious how the rest of the market will affect something like this. Usually when you see something like this where it breaks out of a base like that, it's going to get another drive continuation here. And at that point, probably should put in some divergence on the weekly, although, yeah, we'll be working on some, but this is still continuation as it is. So I wouldn't be looking for a major high just yet. In fact, this one looks probably good for another swipe to the upside, maybe a short-term down if it really wants to, 1772, but overall, I'll be looking for this one to still probably march its way towards about 2,000-ish bucks. Nice round even number as well for you. I need to sip of this water, man. I'm fucking thirsty right now. Oh man, still digging out the sleep from my eyes right now too. It's like I said, very early morning. Microsoft, what's Microsoft doing? Still playing out the range. Still playing out the range here. What's next? 216 or 204.5. I don't have a strong opinion on this. If I had to call it right now, I do think it tests the upside first, 215 to 216 region. But the range is still more or less the same with the same implications. The upside resolution for the range, though, would imply a move all the way up here, however, towards 233. That's also the 2-spot Fibonacci extension, and that would be a breakout above 217. Yeah, breakout above 217 or a move above 217.5, we'll call it. Both very likely to produce another, what is that, 13 bucks? No, $16 move. Yeah, somewhere around here. Looks good to me. Let's go look at some forex as well. What about euro dollar? I'm curious how this one's doing for my own knowledge. And finally, putting in a little bit of a high right there. Bearish divergence also initiated. I do think short term it comes back down to 117.5, and I feel quite good about this one, man. We've we got this level to the fucking T. I really dislike saying more direct things like that sometimes, but because we are on the TA nerd section, I don't necessarily have to filter myself as much, because I understand that people here, like, staying at this point in the video, they probably like have a nuanced understanding of shit. But yes, we grind out this area over the past few weeks, kind of what we were looking for. Yes. The monthly area still holding, so I do happen to think that the monthly will probably sell down and then probably see a reversal over the next couple months, bringing this thing back down to 115.5 and probably lower over time. This is at the same time that the dollar is putting in a little bit of some bottoming action right around here, actually having a bit of a bounce. I wouldn't necessarily, is this a test of the 200 exponential moving average or not? It's close enough at this point, really. And we do have, oh no, we don't have, but we do have a little bit of a bottoming action right there. Let's go see what it looks like on a daily. However, curious what this is going to be. Yeah, major bullish divergence right here between this point, and this point. 3 drives. I'll be looking for short term back up to 93.5 region. And that couldn't come at a better time for myself, because I need to transfer some of my dollars into fucking euros. Always an issue, man. Always an issue. But yes, coming at the same time that euro dollar is kind of putting in a major high at the same monthly level as well. With bearish divergence along the way. And do we see the same sort of thing on a weekly maybe? No, we don't. Yeah, we don't really see the same sort of thing on a weekly, so that is a little bit concerning as well. So the dollar, probably putting in a low does cause everything else that trades against the dollar, Bitcoin included, and just about everything else in the fucking world, to have some pullbacks here maybe over the next month or so. we'll see how we'll see how high everything gets before then, and then come back to it after that. See how the Russell closed yesterday. It looks like we have rotations once again, closing the day slightly up. Well, no, this is more unchanged than anything else. Yeah, I'd say this is I'd be looking for this one to come back down short term towards 1540-ish region, and then bounce from there. Still got the golden cross on the daily. I still overall think that this, most of them are going to bounce off those lower tests, but I like to see where the weekly closes after that. NYA, what do we see here? A little bit of down action as well. I'll be looking for short-term down to 12,700. What about triple Qs? Closing the day slightly down as well. I'll be looking for short-term down to 274 and probably bounce there. If things get a little more crazy, 269. What else do we have? UKX. We want to look at some England, some Britain, some T's. Actually looks like it wants to push through here. Let's see what the reverse Stochastic indicator cross shows. Yeah, 62.43. If it can close the weekly above that, I'd be looking for this one to actually give a big try to the upside, maybe all the way back up to like 65. Weekly RSI is okay. A weekly Joule is potentially lining up for your hot or your long signal as well. I don't feel that confident on this one though. I don't really watch this one all that much, but people have been asking about it. Same thing with the Nifty as well. I don't really know these names. Like I've never really traded them myself, but it looks like it wants to bounce up here, probably bounces back up to 11,400 today. Golden cross in the daily as well. It's an uptrend. Looking at the weekly, still okay. If tomorrow's close comes below 11,250 though, then problems, yes. But for right now, looks sluggish and up. Let's go look at Link as well. I'm curious what Link's doing too, as this one, the darling of the market right now. And what do we see here? Backfill on last week's open and up. Nicely done. Did swipe our level down at 14.5 yesterday. Nice. I'd be probably looking for this one to pop back up now and try a little bit of a rally, as it does have major hidden bullish divergence potentially in the making between going all the way back here to August 4th, which was this low coming out of this base from just under $9.5. So I do think that short term it probably rallies back up somewhere around 18.5 to $19, or what is this level rate? Sorry, let me take that back. 18 to 18.5 bucks, not 19, but 18 to $18.5. Probably does try a rally back up there and then plays out a range. Something like this is what I'd be looking for. With any sort of a break above $18.5, very likely retesting the overall high, and then very likely get another drive to the upside. But for right now, this is the trading range, very similar to Bitcoin as well. And I'll be using the same sort of thing for the downside as well, using this level that we had yesterday at just over $14.80 to denote downside. If that does happen, I'd be looking for a move all the way back down here towards 12 and a quarter, 12 and a half. Okay, what else we want to check out? How deep in this video? How deep inside are we in this video right now? Let's go check out Mr. Butyrol. I'm curious how that one's operating in the during this downside displeasure for the Mr. Butyrol Bulas. The Butyrol Bulas. Oh man, that's gonna become a fucking that's the next gang. I'm a Butyrol Bula, so yeah, exactly. I don't hate Mr. Butyrol or anything like that, man. I just don't really happen to care. Looking at daily Joule, does have a sell signal right there. That is very problematic. I would be looking for a short-term move back down to 389.5. 390-ish region, somewhere around 390 we'll call it, a break below 390, and I'll be looking for another extension down to 366 down here. Oh, okay, this chart's way too convoluted. Let's do a new one. Let's try this. Boom. All right, that's where we are right now. Let's get this. This would be the target if what was that area? If 390, what was it? 392? 392. It's just 391.5. 391.5. Yeah. If that breaks to the downside, yes, I'd extend that target down another $30 or so to 366, 365. And then if that area breaks, then we got a big move, very likely in the making to the next level, all the way down here around 335. Also in line with the 55. I really like those lining up with each other. But again, just because I do think that short term it does come down here, I think very likely it comes back down to like 392 or 391.5. If it can set in a higher low there, it will have hidden bullish divergence present as well, going quite far back actually, and that would very likely force another move back up towards 430-ish region and potentially beyond as well. So these weekly closures are going to be much more critical than anything that I'm saying right now. but obviously we can like prepare for it as the time comes into more proximity, I guess. So let's go back to Bitcoin and let's go over, or actually we could go look at our secondary charts over here. Where's my secondary? There we go. Another perspective giver perhaps as well from a Trollinger Band perspective. Bitcoin is just playing off the medium band right here. Not really not really a major issue when things are doing that. From a weekly perspective, we are getting rejection from the top side Trollinger Band. But still, as long as we're above 11.5 on the weekly, it's hard to hate. It's a tight range here, yes. But the weekly range is rather set. So, what do you make out of that? Well, more so waiting until the weekly closure, because between these two ranges right here, it doesn't really help anything with changing biases. In fact, if biases aren't going to change, then by the nature of it, very likely just plays out a range between the top side of the Trollinger Bands, which is rising at about 12,100, and then this horizontal right here. And to actually break that, we don't really have like the next weekly move, so to speak. And then also let's look at expected moves with regards to historical volatility percentile. So we'll go back to GDAX chart right here. Let's look at the lower term time frame ranges and come up with probabilities. And what do we have? Okay, so let's use both 11. I'm going to use 11,600, just be like kind of in the middle there of aggressive and conservative. And then I'll use 12,000 for the upside still. If we do get a move or a closure, more importantly, on even a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo above 12,000, and for the more aggressive people, 11,950, you could probably say, I would look for extension back up here towards 12.3, 12.5 region with potential for a lot more. But just talking short-term timeframes right now. By the same token, a move below here, a closure below here on a 2-hour or 4-hour, and I'd be targeting a move back down here for another $500, $600 move. So both of these having medium-term implications is kind of the relationship that I'm making up, with long-term implications above this area right here and below this area right here. So we can also look at that as well. But first, we'll look at the medium-term areas. So we'll do 11,950 the upside, and for the downside, we'll do 11,6. I think that's fine for right now. And what do we show? We do show that the probabilities have actually shifted in favor of the downside now. So if you remember yesterday, it was very strange and very enlightening that the probabilities for the upside were actually outshining the probabilities for the downside, even though price action was pretty much where we are right now, and $12,000 is obviously much further away than 11,600 for those resolution points. So as you can see right here, it is going to, the more that Bitcoin kind of hangs within this region, it will give the ball, or sorry, it will put the ball in the bear's court to kind of like take it on and run. Can have a reversal here on a daily if you just go just a slight amount lower. Another $300, $400. There you go. But let's look at also the long-term range as well, although it's not going to maybe be as helpful because I don't think that we'd be doing this today, but we can still look at it. We can look at 12.5 to the upside versus 11,000 to the downside, and very low probabilities. Technically speaking, the 12.5 has slightly higher probability at 7.34% versus just over 6% for the downside probability. But right now, in today is going to be focused on the medium term. So it looks like Bitcoin is going to try to bounce off this area once again, as we spoke about during the beginning of this video. But and that's right, we also saw the 4-hour closure. So let's see how everything switched around here. Did we officially cross the upside? Not really. Yeah, not really. Let me get rid of everything. 11,740 is the next major area. So needs to close this next one above 11,740 to cross momentum back up to the upside. What about the 2-hour? Did we see this one get up? Yes, it is. It will continue the upside. And the hourly, yes, as well, actually. So fair enough. It is within the cards right now. I happen to think that, if you're just asking my straight up opinion right here, which I do not trade my opinion, I trade technical analysis. So of course, this is like pretty much irrelevant, but Bitcoin probably grinds out this area a little bit more and then gives another try to the upside somewhere around 11,950 to $12,000. But what's the overall bias? Well, as long as Bitcoin has an uptrend, which essentially is holding this trend line right here, well, I can't really be bearish off that. If things were to switch around, then yes, I'd be happy to switch around as well. But proof, not promises first. So realistically, the more sideways here without actually breaking below this level, you'll naturally see momentum shift back onto the upside. Here's a little bit of a perspective though that I'll leave you with, because when we do go to the 12-hour and daily, momentum remains to the downside as long as we're like below 12,300 on the 12-hour and daily showing 12,200. So that is a little bit problematic from the higher term time frame. But that would suggest that if Bitcoin is going to float, is going to shift around here and continue the uptrend, it probably spends some time, a few days in this range between, again, about 11,600 and 12,000. So with that said, I'd like to wish you very well on this Thursday. Yeah, hey, have a happy Thursday, or whatever the fuck you celebrate on a Thursday. Is it Taco Thursday? No, it's Tequila Thursday. It's Titty Thursday. Have a titty in your life. Goodbye.